Welcome back to the DNA Pest Control Podcast. Daniel's speaking.
And Aaron speaking. It's
There
good to
we
be
go.
back.
Yeah, it is. All right. Have you ever had, this is actually more for the office. Have you ever had someone call in and he's just like pissed off and yells at you?
Oh, never in my life.
Never in your life. Yeah. Everyone calls and they're super happy. But if you ever had that happen, or even if you're a tech, we can even go with the tech. Have you ever knocked on a door? Happened to me. Customer, they answer the door and they're just like, what? I'm like, here to do your service.
Just right off the bat.
Yeah, just like, why are you here? And it's like, well, I've been coming here every 2 months. What do you mean, why am I here?
Yeah.
But, sometimes you run into these people. Sometimes you run into people who maybe that example isn't too bad. I mean, they're rude to your face, but they don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
You do have others who go to that extreme and why are you servicing my house? I called the office. I told them to cancel.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing here? Things like that. Or you get the, random complainers. I've had it where you had those people who are like, there's a spider web behind the palm tree that's like butted up against the corner of the fence that you would literally have to go and get behind to see the spider web.
Yeah.
I've had that too. The guy actually went and took pictures.
No way.
No joke. And I'm like, where is that?
Yeah.
He even went and took a picture like underneath a piece of wood. You literally can't see it unless you put your camera underneath it.
Oh, okay.
I'm not even kidding you.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like a little step, and it was probably about a little bit higher than your ankle. So you would literally have to be on the ground to look underneath it.
So he was looking for it.
Oh, he was looking for anything.
Yeah.
And everything. And his wife was like, he's crazy. I don't know. I'm sorry. Like she was apologizing when I went back. But I mean, there's those types of customers out there, right?
Of course.
We always run into these types of people. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today.
Mm-hmm.
It is the problematic customer. Who are they? What are they? Those are few examples. What have you run into?
I mean, just starting off in the office, you hear it all the time between tech said this, tech did this,
Mm-hmm.
the office said they were going to do that. It's a lot. It's very easy for a client to call in and freak out in the office in the moment.
Yeah.
Right. I think there's a lot of early signs on kind of what a problematic customer looks like. And that's kind of why we wanted to do this episode is like, sometimes not all money is good money, or better said, not all business is good business for the long run.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. No. You do have some people who want either 1,000 callbacks.
Oh yeah. It's a good one.
And so there's nothing that you literally can do.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases.
Sure.
There's the other type of customer is it doesn't matter how good of a job you do. They don't even want to call back. They just want to call and complain.
Oh, okay.
Or they're just calling to create a problem.
So no solutions.
No solutions. And then I do think you do have a few other customers that maybe not even problematic customers. They may cancel, but they create a big issue behind it and they create a big problem and things like that. I've had that on the phone where they're just going after me. I'm terrible. You're a horrible person, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And it's just them being overstressed.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think there is the problematic customer, and then you do have the customer that's just taking it out on you, but they're not actually a big problem.
That's a good point, because you can kind of get it mixed up too. At first, when you first hear that conversation, it's easy to associate that person as a terrible client and they're just freaking out for no reason. But what's really going on under the surface, And
that has always been a big question for me because I hear it. I always get the, kind of the end of the conversation or one side of the conversation, especially from the office, and I always have the extreme, like, we just need to cancel that person out. And it's like, we need to cancel that person out. Why?
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah, is it a big enough reason to cancel them out? They didn't like a tech. People just don't like people.
Yeah.
Do we want to create something big enough to cancel somebody out for that reason?
Good point.
because I do think there is that time where, yes, you need to fire a customer, and we'll get into an example where we did that.
Yeah.
And we never looked back. And then there's other times where I think we create, something bigger than it is. And I see it in the office a lot with office staff. So if office staff is listening, if not, get the office staff to listen because they need to. But I do get the extreme where it's like, well, this person didn't pay, so I'm just going to cancel them out.
It's like, hold on.
Well, exactly. I'm like, well, okay, that would be like 50% of our customers. Like you can't just cancel someone out because they just didn't want to pay this one time.
Right.
Is it a reoccurring issue? See, now that would be another problematic customer that's away from the text, but more towards the office.
Right.
Are you constantly doing a service but not getting paid? That could be a problematic customer.
Oh, yeah.
But we need to look at those extremes. How often? Because us as human beings, I don't know if you ever got this on the doors when you knocked. Mm-hmm. I got it all the time. You're not the only guy out there knocking doors. And a lot of the times, you're not the only guy knocking that neighborhood. But I will have people who open the door and they're looking at me and they're like, you just knocked my door yesterday.
Oh, yeah, that happened.
And I'm like, I've never knocked your door in my life.
Right.
But they're like, you just came here yesterday. I'm like, yesterday I knocked your door. I didn't knock your door yesterday.
Yeah.
Or if we went back through the neighborhood 3 months later and re-knocked it, because we did that too, is they would be like, you guys were here just a week ago or 2 weeks ago. I'm like, no, that was 3 months ago.
Yeah.
But, cool that you remembered.
Right. Yeah.
But we take those and we manipulate time, a lot of it. So we're looking at a situation, we say this person doesn't pay, and so now we say this person doesn't ever pay.
They're kind of putting that label on it.
Yeah, they just create a big problem where there's not a problem. Mm-hmm. Or I go to this customer's house and they always complain. No, they may have complained twice.
Right.
But did they always complain the 20 times you've been out there? I don't know.
Probably not.
Right? So we do have to take that as there are the problematic customers, but really which ones are the problematic customers? And we're going to get into that. That's what we want to focus on, is the real problematic customers, not the ones that are disguised as the problematic customers.
Sure.
And some of it is, well, I guess let's get into it. So what is a real problematic customer?
Yeah. Quick example. In the office, some of the early signs that I'd see is, especially on specialty treatments, you go out for like a German cockroach estimate on a residential home, and you're really going through the preparation, the amount of treatments that it's going to take, the cost of it, and the client is always trying to kind of defer the conversation. So, well, can I get it done in 1 or 2 treatments instead of the 3 or 4? Mm-hmm. It's like, no, it's going to take, the severity of it requires 3 to 4 treatments. Okay, well, can I get a discount on these kinds of treatments? It's like, unfortunately, no, because, the chemicals, the time, the follow-up, the callbacks, things that it's going to take. Mm-hmm. And they're kind of looking for any reason to like get around the real prep and the real work behind solving the issue, and just in my experience, that's what I've found as an early sign of somebody who's not really looking to solve the issue. Someone who's looking to just patch it up with a Band-Aid, especially with like, property managers who don't really care about some of the units that they're looking over. That's what I've seen. Oh, yeah. I
could see that. Another one that we had big issues with, and this comes into like restaurants and commercial properties. Mm-hmm. Another big one is when you go out there, you identify that they have a bigger issue than they have, or they thought they had.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they'll even lie to you. So we'll jump into the big one that I want to talk about, and the one that we actually fired. And I won't say how we did it. We'll talk about that later in the episode. But this customer, I sat down with him. I literally walked into his place, said who I am. He's like, dude, come back here, sit down. I want to sign up. Mm-hmm. I want to sign this place up. I want to sign my house up. I want to sign another business up. I want to sign another business up. And I'm like, cha-ching,
That's
gold
incredible.
mine. Yeah, so let's go. So I started doing everything. And from that, right then and there, from signing him up, the next complaint, we should have canceled him. And we didn't.
What was that complaint?
That complaint was the price is wrong on one of his properties. He signed the paperwork. I filled the paperwork with him, sitting down, everything right there. Me and him are looking at it. Not an electronic signature, a physical signature with him right then and there.
So how'd you respond to that?
Well, I told him. I got on the phone and I said, I sat down with you and showed you the pricing. This building's going to be more expensive because we're literally servicing a massive building. It's not going to be the same price as your tiny little restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
There's differences in prices. And it calmed him down then, but that was an early sign. That was a big red flag that should have said, something's going to keep going on with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And something kept going on. So a lot of the times when you go into a restaurant, you know, or even a home or anything like that, and you're doing an initial inspection, you may not see any bugs, but they have been. He said, nope, I don't have any bugs. I never have any bugs. Nothing ever happens here. Cool. I'm going to throw out some glue boards.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we caught German roaches. You don't just get German roaches out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So you're telling me I literally walked into this place, happened to place glue boards the same day some bum walked in and dropped off some German cockroaches?
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't make sense, right?
No.
But see, those were those little things where we end up going out, we check the glue boards, and now it's, well, you need a cockroach treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And then he refuses. He doesn't want it. It's too expensive. So you see those early signs. You start to see these people and these patterns where people start complaining, even though it's not your fault. I didn't know you had German cockroaches. You told me no.
Sure.
I could have helped you from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Now we're trying to disguise it. Then the health department got involved because they ended up doing a random inspection.
Surprise.
And if anyone, no, and I did not call them. I did not say this guy has German cockroaches.
Oh, yeah.
But you do see that. Those are a lot of big early signs. And he was a big one where he started complaining from day one. He started pulling out pricing from day one. He started, hiding a lot of his issues. And if you really sit back and see a lot of those signs, you could probably prevent a big number of these things from happening. But he was a big one, is those are problems.
Yeah.
When people start picking apart the price, problem, get rid of them. Mm-hmm. They're not your ideal customer.
Yeah.
And I guess we could actually talk about ideal customers too, right? On the
Sure.
opposite side, but we won't get into that because we want to make sure you can see the problematic customer. Mm-hmm. Now, I've had techs out there who've been super picky. And every person is a problematic customer.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
So, some guys don't disguise it. I know we're trying to pinpoint who is the problematic customer, but don't create every customer as one. If you sucked at a job, you need to own it. It's not them being problematic. It's you not doing a thorough enough job.
Yeah, and you have, 16, 20 accounts in your day. It starts adding up to a lot of quote-unquote bad customers.
Yeah, but it has happened. I've had a lot of techs, and guess what? Those techs have gone, or those techs stopped servicing that house, and guess what?
Things are great.
That customer's not a problem anymore. So we do need to understand that there is that fine line, and unfortunately it is a very, very fine line,
Sure.
And sometimes can even be blurred to where we don't know if they really are or if they're really not. Mm-hmm. But there are some of those early signs that you can catch. Are they complaining about the pricing? Are they complaining about the service? Are they hiding bigger problems than that they really have?
Yeah.
Well, now you know.
Yeah, or even on the homeowners, I hear it sometimes, like they're always threatening to go back to their old company. Or right, when I was with, ABC Pest Control, it's like I never had these issues. You guys can't get your act together. I don't know if I'm going to have to go back. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in a lot of those cases, you can say, you know what? I think it's time.
Yeah.
You probably should.
Sure. We'll get into that when we talk about closing and firing a customer.
Oh, yeah. Because, and I know, and that was a quick one. You probably don't say that to the customer.
Yeah.
Don't be like, go back to them.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. But, so have you ever had any personal ones? I mean, I've had a ton where we've had, problematic customers. But since you've been here, have you seen any big ones that have stuck out to you?
Yeah. I mean, the example I just gave, it's a client, residential client, calls in a lot. She pays for herself and her neighbor, and she's had a previous pest control company. And there hasn't been a single conversation with her where she hasn't brought up A, how we're lacking in service, B, how much better the last company was. And she's laying out all her problems, and I'm giving her the solutions to those problems, and it's never good enough. So the conversation had to get to the point where it's like, what are you looking for? You know, and no, and I didn't say it like that, but it's like, what's the end game here? Like, how do we get to a solution where this works? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, that is another way to really find out if they're a problem, because
Exactly.
some of the things that you can say to a customer on the phone, which a lot of people are scared to do for whatever reason, but ask them, what's the solution?
Mm-hmm.
Have them tell you.
Yeah, you tell me.
Yeah, tell me how I can fix this, and see what they say. If they don't have an answer, you need to fire them.
Which most of the time they probably won't, unless it's one of those ones where we created it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Well, I had another one, and then we'll move on from the example. So.
Yeah.
But this one was one that stuck out because she came at me pretty hard. She was attacking me pretty good. This was a couple years ago, but she ended up calling because we went out to her house. We serviced her home.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't there, so we only got to service the front part of the house.
Sure.
Which we'll go back out for free. Mm-hmm. And usually we reach out to the customer. We want to make sure that we're going to get back out there and take care of it.
Correct.
But she got charged. And so she didn't get charged. Her card didn't go through because she canceled it. She paused it. So no one could charge her card. But she called up super angry. Mm-hmm. I never got a notification, blah, 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 blah. And I said, okay, let me check real quick.
Yeah.
So if everybody's on paper, guys, get away from paper. It's going to ruin your life, because our system, we can see, did a text message go through? It did. It got delivered. So she got it.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, let me check your phone number. Gave her phone number. Well, that's my phone number. I said, okay, well, it shows here that you got a text message.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't. Okay. Well, you know, it shows that it delivered. You know, I'm sorry that happened. I'm not sure what happened on your end, but it actually shows that we sent one a week before and 24 hours before.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of went on. She kind of was fighting everything. She ended up admitting it and saying, well, I sent a text message not to come out to my house.
Oh.
So it changed from never getting one to now I sent you guys a text message. Mm-hmm. I said, that's really weird because we never got anything.
Right, right.
And then she started creating more excuses. And then to the end of it, it eventually came out to where she was in an area where a text message couldn't go through, or maybe it didn't because it was bad service.
Interesting.
But you guys shouldn't come out to my house anyway, because if I don't confirm it, then you guys should never come out. Well, the problem there is... So she wanted to do all that. She was freaking out about this whole situation. And you got to keep your calm in those, you know, especially with these customers.
True.
But anyway, came out. She never sent the message. She never even tried to send a message. We've been going out to her house for years before. Never got a text message from her, ever saying come or don't come.
Oh, wow.
So she created this massive story, massive problem. And it was just one thing after another. And it did finally come to where she wanted to cancel at the end, which was cool.
Yeah.
But she wanted an email instantly right then and there saying it canceled and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, I can't control that. That's the system. And I can't. I mean, I could write out an email saying, hey, your service is canceled if she really wanted it. But that would be one of those signs. Mm-hmm. I mean, those customers is they're taking their frustration out on you. They're done. And she would have been a problematic customer even if I tried to save her.
Yeah.
It would have been an issue after another issue after another issue. She wanted a free service. She didn't want to get charged anything. Mm-hmm. She didn't think it was fair. But it's like 3 years prior, we've been doing literally the same thing.
Yeah.
And there was actually services where we just serviced the front yard and we didn't service the backyard. And she didn't care because she wasn't there.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, that's my fault. My bad. Sorry. Mm-hmm. So it was like, you know, you can't win on some of these. And when there is no push and pull, problematic customer.
Yep. Exactly.
You know, there's zero reason or they want stuff for free. It's done. you gotta cut them off.
No, and you made a good point. It's got to be a push and pull. It's got to be a two-way transaction because, early on in my tenure here, I was learning on how to get ahead of these issues, and I was finding myself almost like a lawyer in a courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody would call in and they would say, "I never got a text message. I never got an email." And now I've learned to be a little bit better, but I would look at their account and I'd say, "So the phone number we texted was," say their phone number, and they'd repeat it back to me, and I'm like, "So we agree this is your phone number?" And then we'd go into the email, and I'm like, "Interesting, because you said it wasn't delivered, but it was. But that's not really getting to a solution. That's just me trying to put the defense up,
Yeah. And I mean, but it's always good to go back in and check your boxes.
Sure.
So then you can, because that is a good way to find out, are they problematic?
Yeah.
Is this a problematic customer? Are you catching them in lies already?
Mm-hmm.
Because if they're lying and you have everything that's showing it, I mean, it's different if you have nothing. Then it's like, no, it's our bad.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make you the bad guy here. We dropped the ball. So in that case, it's, is the phone number correct? Yes. It says delivered. Okay. Well, it's a telephone, it's a cell phone. It got delivered. Okay. Email. It got delivered. Mm-hmm. Was there any opens? They did open it. They clicked on it.
We can see that.
We can see that, right? The system allows us to do that. So now you go in and say, okay, you have now been lying to us in all of these aspects.
Yeah.
What are you trying to get here?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't say it like that. There's ways around that, but you're trying to figure out what's the end game?
Yeah.
Do they want free services? Do they want a call back? Are they seeing bugs and they're scared to just call and say, hey, I want a call back? Because sometimes, moving into it is we create some of these people.
We really do.
Talking about preventing them or trying to get ahead of that problem is if you have someone in the office who's always complaining about somebody or people calling in about callbacks, well, then don't offer free callbacks.
Yeah.
We cannot get mad. I don't know how many times I have to say it, but why are we getting mad when someone is allowed to get a free callback?
Yeah.
We can't be mad at the person.
We put those rules in place.
We did. We put those rules in place. And then if this customer's calling back because they're seeing ants and we've sent a guy out there to treat for ants, maybe it's not the customer. We're going out there 3 times for a callback. Maybe it's us.
Yeah.
Or the ants aren't taken care of. The bugs aren't taken care of, and we've already been out there, and this is now the 3rd callback. The customer isn't a problem. Now it's time to investigate.
Mm-hmm.
But to prevent a lot of these problems is we got to create those rules.
Right.
Are you willing to put a limit on your unlimited callbacks? Do you want to say, hey, look, there's actually 3 callbacks and we charge for the 4th, right? Like we found out about a company.
Yeah.
They do that.
They set that expectation up front.
And the customer knows.
Mm-hmm.
That's the crazy thing is they let the customer know you have 3 free ones and then you get charged on the 4th.
Yeah.
So they understand I can call 3 times for free, but I'm getting charged on that 4th one.
Exactly.
Perfect. That's how it needs to be, right? So we could prevent a big issue because now we know they're going to call, they're going to complain. Perfect. They get 3 free ones. If it's a 4th, And there's probably actually even more rules behind that because it's if it gets to getting to charge them, it's why.
Right.
So they're probably doing a real thorough follow-up or sending a manager out on the 2nd callback or maybe the 3rd to make sure the job is getting done properly. Because now it may be just the tech, not actually the customer.
That's a good point. Like what are the rules that we're putting in place?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's a lot of things that we can prevent with literature or getting people to sign certain agreements that's outlining what is going on.
Sure.
Because that's a big one that customers will complain about or take advantage of if it's not written out there, if it's not thrown out there. And I see that, So the other thing is on, kind of coming into the close with these problematic customers is firing the customer.
Yeah.
Right?
You're going to fire a customer. Just trying to grow your business?
Well, and actually, that's a good one.
Yes.
That is great. Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. But people don't understand how much cost goes into a problematic customer.
Oh, yeah.
So for the ones out there who think, well, yeah, they may complain a lot, or they're they call a ton or whatever it is, but they're not that bad. We need to keep everybody, but the person who's not paying for 6 months and then finally pays and then gets services and then doesn't pay for another 6 months, you're now putting all that time and energy into collections. So you could eliminate that. So you're probably breaking even with that person. So when you're trying to grow, your focus is on collections from these handful of people that should just be fired.
Yeah, and where your focus is, there's another area where your focus isn't. You start getting the office involved. You send a tech out to collect, and it's like that hour and a half of combined time just for that one callback could have been used for like acquiring new customers or reaching out to old ones that canceled. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, you start combining the gas and the wear and tear and the hourly rates and everything like that everyone's getting paid. Well, soon you just you just wasted $100 on this person and their service was only worth 60 or 80 or even 100.
Yeah.
You just broke even. It's not even worth it.
It's easy to like break even on that and even go negative if you're not careful.
Yeah. So, but people do get scared. Or you say, okay, look, I really like this customer. They're not that bad. Raise the rates.
Yeah.
Raise the rates.
Exclusively for them.
Yeah. If they have a ton of callbacks, just raise the rates. And then there's nothing. It's now our rates are higher than what they normally were.
Yeah.
You have a ton of callbacks. This is what our rates are now.
Now it's worth it.
Now it's like, okay, we're getting there. Now we can go out there 5 times, for free. It makes sense. So there's so many different ways, and you guys can even get more creative with it. We're throwing out a few ideas to, how to fire a customer. And actually going to a previous example is, that this guy that, we signed up all of his businesses and stuff like that. And we started having problems with him. Well, he stopped paying. So he stopped paying. We stopped going out and servicing.
What a concept.
That's another way, another idea, to handle these people. Well, the health inspector has to come back every 3 months, 3 to 4 months.
Clock's ticking.
So health inspector comes back. He goes back into, freaking out. He wants to do all these services. He wants cockroach services now. He's willing to pay all this money. Well, he still hasn't paid us. And even then we said, okay, look, we'll come pick up the check from you. He's just right down the street.
Yeah.
So we said, we'll pick up the check from you. We had the office staff go to his restaurant to pick up the check twice in one day.
Yikes.
And the first time, some huge BS story about something happened, wife and, dad and blah, 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 because the son was working. So we came back to the office, worked through because they said come back at noon, went back at noon, still no check. No owner, nobody. So we're thinking this is BS.
Yeah.
I even went to his bank and I said, I want to cash the check. I want cash because I want to make sure that I can get this check. I'm not going to go put it in my bank account and have it bounce.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how stupid it got. I mean, it was ridiculous for how much time we spent on trying to collect and then driving to him and all this. We should have fired him.
Oh, it's exhausting.
Yeah, months before. But he ended up coming back in. He dropped off the check. And on his way out, he turned around and said, hey, let's get my next service scheduled. And the person in the office at the time said, no. Or she kind of pushed him off and was like, yeah, we'll get it scheduled. Don't worry. You'll get a notification. Trying to be nice about it. Like, hey, we're done with you.
Yeah.
And he kept kind of pushing. And then finally she snapped. And she's like, we're done.
Yeah.
We're not going to service you anymore.
It's not worth it at this point.
Yeah. Oh, and he freaked out. He was pissed. And so he kept going at her like, who are you? Why are you making the decision? And we talked beforehand. So me and her, we were on the same page when this happened.
Sure.
And we were done with this guy. And he freaked out, but we just essentially told him, hey, we're not coming out to your restaurant anymore. We're not servicing you anymore. We're done. And he didn't stop there. He left and he ended up calling me months down the road, trying to get me to go back out for service and to service him. And I told him no.
You had to.
Yeah, he was freaking out. I mean, and he was upset with me. And I said, I told him, I said, hey, we have to get paid. Just like if I come into your restaurant and I order a pizza, do I get to pay you 3 months later? And he didn't like that. And I told him this.
Yeah.
I straight up told him this. I said, it doesn't work like that. I said, that's exactly how you treated us. I said, we're done. I'm not coming out to service your restaurant. I'm not coming out to do any more treatments for you. You need to find someone else.
That's such a good example too, because it's like you go in there and you pay for the pizza you ate last week, and then you tell them, oh, by the way, can you deliver it to my house tomorrow? It's like, no, that sounds insane, right?
It does.
But that's literally what he was asking.
It is. It is exactly what they're asking. But some of these people, I don't know if it's, I don't know what they think in their head or how it functions. But those problematic customers, when they start to create those problems or to create these weird ideas, it's no, we're done with that.
Yeah.
You have a customer who hasn't been paying like these people, you talked about. It's you cancel them out. You let them know they're getting canceled out. If they still want service, well, now we change the aspect of the game.
Oh yeah,
the game is now changed. If it's a payment problem, you now have to give us a credit card.
Mm-hmm.
You now have to pay us before we even do the service, or we're not even doing the service.
Yeah.
If we go out to your house and you're not there, guess what? We're charging you a trip charge, and so now you're going to owe us more money before we even go out there.
And it's very clear from the start.
Very clear from the start. And it has to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not that way, then then we can create a big problematic customer, job pool.
Yep.
And then we got to pick and choose who we need to fire and go from there. But there is so many different ways to do it and how to do it. I only hit on a couple. I mean, raising rates or just straight up firing them. Do you have any other ideas on?
Yeah, for me, I try to get to the core of the issue immediately because, a lot of these clients will want to do the song and dance of like, oh, you guys never do this, even though I paid you. And I just try to get to it like, look, you have this pest issue, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
This is what we're going to do. You tell me how this is going to work.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because from what I'm seeing, it's like I'm making the right recommendations as so long as, things line up correctly. But there's always seems to be an issue. So what's really going on? And I'll ask the client that.
Yeah.
Because if they actually do want to work with you and they want to move forward, they'll have like some kind of reasonable solution, or the conversation will steer that way. And if they don't want to, and they keep talking about how awful you are, how many times they've had issues because we can't get the job done, there it is right there.
Yeah. Yeah. And from that conversation, you should be able to get a lot of ideas, or at least be able to start with some ideas on how do I prevent this from happening next time.
Mm-hmm.
And some you may not be able to. Some people will call and get pissed off because you didn't spray their backyard, but they got messages a week before, they got messages 24 hours before, they just chose not to do it, right? So you do need to make sure that you do have those things in place. But when you do have that in place, now it goes back to they are the real problem.
Exactly.
And you're pulling yourself further back out of it because we've done everything we can.
Mm-hmm.
Because the second someone says, I didn't receive a notification, even though they're not pissed yet, they say that, I say, let me check your number.
Yep.
Right then and there. I'm a tech. I'm on the door. I'm like, let me see what it is. Let me see what your email is.
Yeah.
So I'm looking and I'm going through it with them. And if they're like, no, that's my phone number. Okay, it's you, not me.
Yeah, or on the office side, you get the call, the tech was here for a minute and a half. He just walked up, sprayed the front door, and he left. I'm like, okay, what address are you at? Just so I can make sure I pull up your info correctly. Okay, because we do track the techs when they clock in and clock out from each appointment. Mm-hmm. And I'm not throwing it in their face. I'm just saying the facts, just trying to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, and tech could have been sitting in his truck.
Sure.
We could see his GPS and things like that. But it is always good when the customer hears, hey, look, we see that. We see when he clocks in and his location from where he clocks in and his location from where he clocks out.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying you're wrong, because he could have been sitting in his truck.
Yeah.
Do you have footage of him sitting in his truck? And even ask him and see. Because I even had a guy call and his wife was pissed off because I didn't spray their backyard and there's no way I could have done it. Well, I grabbed a bucket and I got on top of a bucket to open up the gate, and I treated the entire yard. And he called in Mr. Confident and said, I got footage, this and that, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, I remember that guy.
And we called him back and we said, okay, send us the footage. Send us the footage. We want to make sure that we talk to the technician. We want to make sure we can get him. Like, we're on your side. We want to get this guy. And so he's like, okay, let me, I don't really have it. My wife said she's got it. And we're like, okay, we'll send it to us when you get it. We never called us back. Kind of just died there. So he never had the footage because the footage never existed, because if you went and saw the footage, you would see me actually treat the backyard.
Clearly.
So she was angry. I'm sure we created a massive fight between them that night, because I'm sure he felt really, really stupid.
Yeah.
That he called and was reaming us when we weren't the issue. It was actually her. And she just was mad that we showed up and did the service or whatever the reason was, right? Yeah. So, definitely cover that, get creative on it, make sure you are asking those customers the right questions. They got camera footage, they got a Ring doorbell.
Let's see it.
Get it over to us. You get those notifications, you get that video footage. Let's see it.
Yep.
And I bet you can see the truth behind it, behind what's really happening, but you could probably prevent a lot of headache and create a lot more time to focus on providing the best service for the better clients, instead of focusing on all these crappy ones that are creating all these problems.
Exactly.
I'm sure you could find out, you'll have a lot more time. But was there anything else you want to add, Aaron, to this?
No, I think it's good. I think people on the tech side and the office side can relate to it, and like you were saying, find your own ways, get creative, like really listen to what these complaints, like what's really behind the complaints and how to get ahead of them before they become this massive issue. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So thanks for listening to the DNA Pest Control podcast. You know where to get a hold of us, and throw us out some questions or some answers to some of our questions on the problematic customer. I'm sure we didn't hit everything, and I'm sure everybody has their own unique experience with some. And you know what? We probably have prevented some from coming up that we haven't even talked about, that you're running into because you haven't prevented those. But you may have prevented other ones that we talked about and said, these guys are crazy. I don't even have that issue.
Yeah.
So let us know. Message us, email us. We'd love to hear about that, especially the problematic customers that you're running into today. But thanks for listening to the DNA Pest Control podcast.